And they're doing pretty much the same thing that the first group did. As we watch them score up, Larry Lauterbach still has to be very nervous about whether or not there's damage in that turbine.
Well, they're scoring up right now is something we expected to see. But you're right about Larry Lauterbach.
He is
keep a
creeping along the outside. Larry's creeping along the outside. Let's see if we get that characteristic thrust out of the boat. Yeah, there it is. I think he may be okay. The whole set, Miss Mazda, though, is going to try to take Larry on a very wide starting sequence as they're all kind of spreading out up there. Looks like nobody really likes the inside buoy roll, perhaps except for George Woods in the Oh Boy Oberto Miss KUBE. Meanwhile, everybody else is going to stay way wide, it appears.
Mike, a little early, aren't they?
They are a tad on the early side. Just a little bit, but they're also way down on power at this point, so it doesn't look like it's too awfully bad. Everybody seems to be a little on the early side, though. You're right, Wayne, and they're way down on power, and this is going to make the accelerating run to the line a little bit ridiculous, because for some of these boats, they won't have much power at all, but Mitch seems to be getting a good position for the start. Yeah, they're all going to be legal. And it will be the whole set Miss Mazda in about the sixth lead, leading everybody down into the first corner, and she's going to come across and close the door on the inside lane. Here she comes now. Great inside shot that you see boys going through the rooster tails down there. A whole lot of splashing about, but all three of those are getting through cleanly. And it is
dead in the water.
Winston Eagle, yes, has gotten wet. And is dead in the water, and is Mike Hansen in the whole set Miss Mazda out front. We'll check and see whether or not the Winston was a victim of some foul play, but we don't know yet. Meanwhile, down the straightaway, the whole set Miss Mazda is your leader straightaway, and coming up on the second place boat, it is the Oh Boy Oberto KUBE challenging Mitch Evans in the Seco Aviation Fuels. Mitch is your second place boat, and he is coming on strong, trying to take the measure of Mike Hansen. Lap number one about to conclude now with the whole set Miss Mazda out front. Mike Hansen has control of this one, Steve Reynolds, and his speed 123.3 miles an hour. But your duel is close now between the Seco and the Oh Boy Oberto KUBE. And there's the differential between them. Not very much time actually at all between the two of them. We'll get a little interval here for you. Meanwhile, it's the Mazda moving through the corner, and 3.5 seconds behind the second place boat is the Oh Boy Oberto KUBE with George Woods. This is an all-piston heat now, and that Mazda's running beautifully.
Oh, Mitch is running very, very strong today.
That battle for second place, Mitch Evans and George Woods, that's going to be a nice little battle with 3.5 laps to go.
Surely is. A lot of parity. 123 the fastest on that one. 89.7 for the Rock was the slowest in that heat. They were coming down, or that lap rather, we're coming down to end lap number 2. Still completely under control of things. Mike Hansen in the whole set Miss Mazda. And he has about a quarter of a course lead on the rest, but here's where the battle occurs now. That's Mitch Evans through the corner of the Seco Aviation Fuels. There's the rough water, and the Oh Boy Oberto KUBE tightens up his corner. George is getting a good turn, and these guys are going to be side by side down at the finish line. The Seco appears to have just a little more pull, but now George's acceleration curve comes up. Both of those boats running 106, 108, with the Miss Mazda running out front at 124. Through the lower corner down there, it's the Seco on the outside and the Oh Boy on the inside. Look at that, side by side through the corner. Great dueling, excellent shot. Look at that, boy, have they got a good run at it. And it looks like George has a little advantage with a little more RPM going to the Seco as they start back up that back chute. Here's your leader now, coming through the north turn, while the others are up the back chute about halfway. And that duel continues to be side by side.
Good
the fans
racing.
on the beach are loving it. Steve, this is good racing.
Good race.
They come through the corner now. What's George going to do here? He's got to keep his foot in it.
But he's got to stay right on the inside. He knows that's the shortest way around the race course, and that's where his optimum power is created. Right there in the end. Oh, rough water.
Very rough. Oh, and the George hooks just a little bit. That might have been trouble. No, it doesn't seem to have been. He hooked just a little bit off the corner. He comes down to the start-finish line with Mitch right on his hip. End of lap number 3 for George at 110 and 108.2 for Mitch in the Seco. Meanwhile, your leader, of course, overall just has it all his way, and that's Mike Hansen driving the whole set Miss Mazda. And boy, is he having a nice afternoon in the sunshine already.
Now, Mike, you know these two guys, Mitch Evans and George Woods Jr. How important is second, or how important are the points to get into the final to these guys? Are they going to dice it out or let it set out to second and third?
Well, at the speeds that they're running in the 110, 108 range, they're not flat out, but they are definitely working on each other. They don't want to cause an attrition problem here, and so I think George is going to simply say, okay, now that I've got Mitch taking the measure of him as he has, overcoming him in that last back chute, he's going to try to back it down if he can a little bit. Mitch, in the meantime, probably doesn't want the boat pounded around anymore. And Steve Reynolds, I think he may be satisfied now to leave it there.
You know, in Mitch's position there in third place, he knows that secure him a spot in the final. So he's going to say, George, you want to run hard? Go ahead, it's all yours.
Yeah, and it's getting so bumpy out there that the attrition could possibly come creeping in, and nobody wants to break anything now. George comes across the line at the end of lap number 4 at 112 miles an hour. The Mazda has slowed down too at 114 in her last lap. And Mitch comes across the line at 102. So yes, that's exactly what happened, Steve. He's decided to give it to him.
But you know, as hard as George is running up, and there's no nitrous oxide in that boat left at all.
Now, this is an historic moment because you have to go back to 1961 to find a heat that the Miss Mazda or Miss Madison boat won on Lake Washington in Seattle before this one right now. And here comes the Holstead Miss Mazda down to the finish line, the winner of Heat 1B of the Seafair Rainier Cup 1989. Yep, and what a proud team that's got to be.
Very, very convincing victory, too.
Second place overall will not go to the boat that's coming across the line. That's the Rock. She's a lap down, but it will go to George Woods in the Oh Boy Oberto Miss KUBE. And he's had a dandy ride, and he's given Mitch a little driving lesson as well in the rough water of Lake Washington. Here comes the U2 running for Jim Harvey's racing team. George Woods across the line at 107.8. In third place, Mitch Evans. In this boat, the Seco Aviation Fuels, the winner of the Columbia Cup last year. There's George now taking his cool-off lap down through the corner. Mitch goes across the line at 98.6. Definitely Steve Reynolds. He got all the lessons that he wanted to.
He really did. Both boats worked very, very hard that year.
All right, at the start-finish line, gentlemen, for a moment lay out, because I want to talk just for a second to Scott Pierce before he goes over to get near his boat. What'd you think? I thought it was a very nice run by the Miss Mazda and Mike Hansen.
Well, I'd suspected all day, Wayne, that the Mazda and Mike Hansen was going to have one heck of a good race, and they showed 124-mile-an-hour laps is real competitive even by turbine standards in this kind of water. So he's someone that Scott Pierce needs to think about, that's for sure.
All piston heat as it turned out there with, of course, Larry going dead in the water, and that's one we'll have to investigate. He would have to come back and run really hard and may have to mix it up with some other turbines next time around in one of those B heats.
Well, it's a...
Boy, there's a sight that the boat owners, the crews, the driver, they just hate. A guy just kind of leaning on the back wing and just standing there because there's nothing else you can do till you get towed in. So there it is, 400, 300, 225, and 169. That is 1B. And again, if you just joined us getting home from the golf course or maybe a little brunch today, we have not run Heat 1A as yet. We had an accident, and 1A will be coming up. By the way, even if they were to repair that tail fin, Northwest will not be allowed the cellular boat to go in this 1A because they were the cause of the accident. So they would have to lay out at least this one heat, but doubtful that they'd even get that fixed with the damage that we saw on the rear of that boat. Well, we see Peter Gross in the pits. Let's get to Peter.
Okay, Mike standing alongside Mike Hansen and the Miss Mazda, and nice ride, but you were a little bit early. Everybody was early at the start line, weren't they?
Yeah, we got up there a little bit early. The thing has a problem of loading up if I go real slow. So once I got myself committed, I had to keep it going a halfway decent pace. I was just hoping the rest of the guys would come up there with us. And we accelerate better than most of them do, so we beat them to the first turn, and it was really no race.
Yeah, I was going to say, once you got to the start line and you accelerated, why, really, you were down in that first corner, number 1, and pretty easy ride from there on in, wasn't it?
Yeah, once I came by, finishing the first lap, saw Winston dead in the turn. I could look back and see Oberto and Cooper running back there behind me. I knew all I had to do was finish the heat, so I backed it down a bit and just brought her in.
That's a nice break for you with Larry Lauterbach going dead in the water like that.
Well, we like to go on racing with them. I mean, you know, we're basically the cream of the crop of the piston boats right now. We'd like to pick off a couple of turbines, so we want to go race with them. You know, the Winston guys are a bunch of good guys, and it's just fun to go racing with them.
First lap.
Second place, and you let's turn this way. Turn around up this way. Toward this one. There we go.
Hello, George.
Yeah. Say hi to Wayne Cody.
Hi, George.
Anyway, George, you finished second, and as I was mentioning, Mike Simmons mentioned you gave Mitch a little driving lesson. What happened on the course?
Well, basically, you know, first thing is we needed to finish this heat. We've had some real problems in the past, the last few races, and we made some system changes, so it was a shakedown cruise for us, and Mitch was running real hard, and I saw Mike got a good start, got right out in front. Yeah, I figured I'd see the Winston Eagle there, and the second lap I didn't see him, and so it was kind of just a little pushing and shoving between me and Mitch, and finally Mitch kind of gave me the edge and let me go there at the last.